Hello, welcome, friends. Welcome to the Agency Side Podcast. My name is Justin Levinson, host of the Agency Side Podcast, and I'm here today with Dustin Artz, co-founder and creative director of Familiar Creatures, one of Adweek's fastest-growing independent agencies and a shop that's consistently punching above its weight in the national conversation. From standout campaigns for Duke's Mayo and Crunch Fitness to a reputation for smart, strategic, and culturally sharp creative, they've carved out a distinct voice in the industry. Thanks so much for being here today, Dustin.
Hey, thanks for having me. You
Yeah.
nailed the intro, so
Thanks,
that was
man.
good.
I appreciate it. So yeah, let's get right into it. Maybe just for the folks who might not be familiar with your agency, maybe you can just tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, we are based in Richmond, Virginia. We started in 2018. We're called Familiar Creatures, and what we do is outsmart brand behemoths. So I've been around in advertising since the early 2000s. I went to VCU Brand Center in Richmond, which is where I ended up, but kind of worked all over. On the West Coast, I worked at Chiat/Day, I worked at Team One, a place called Omelet. I worked at McKinney on the East Coast, and at the Martin Agency, where I worked for a while, for a good chunk of years, I met my partner and co-founder, Justin Bajan, who's a writer. I'm an art director. So we found out when we worked on Geico and some other campaigns that we just worked really well together, fast, same sensibility, same humor level, strategic kind of look at brands, and always wanted to know more. And it just kind of serendipitously, I was freelancing, he was freelancing, and we had an opportunity, and we wanted a niche, and we really enjoyed when we worked at the big agencies, working on some of the smaller ones, which for the big holding company agencies are still, almost international brands. The smallest budgets there are still household names. So, the Mentoses, the Sabras, he worked on Kia, Tic Tac, those little brands that still have a tremendous amount of media weight, but they are up against big competition. They need to punch above their weight, and oftentimes we're understaffed at the bigger places. So we just thought there was a real niche there in terms of media weight and talent level. So that's what we aimed for. I've been doing this 7 years, like I said.
Yeah, that's cool. So is your other co-founder, is he located in Richmond as well?
Yeah, we all. I could turn the camera around here, but we're in an office, which is really throwback these days, where we're in this area called Scott's Addition in Richmond, kind of like a bunch of breweries and new growth. And we all sort of work here. I think there's just 12 of us, but we freelance a bunch, and always have, when you're small, you're kind of freelancing different roles. And so we all work together here, and it's kind of fun because we'll come on a call with a new client, and they'll be surprised because we're all like sitting around a table, and they're all like the Brady Bunch on different videos. So we strongly believe in having a culture, and especially for younger folks, like growing them and having them sort of learn, and having all the nuances of communication that happen. It's so much quicker to be in person. So we're strong proponents of it.
Yeah, and how many people in the agency altogether?
Well, we've been like 12 to 15 the past you know year or so. We started with just Justin and I, so have really kind of worked up, and we grow every year. So we're small, but we're mighty. Um, and like I said, there's certain roles like strategy and production that we bring people on that are specialists, and we just, from 20-year careers, Justin and I have a big Rolodex, and we can just bring in people who we've worked with in the past who we know are awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Are you still doing, I know your path has been sort of from design, art director, creative director to agency owner. Are you still doing hands-on work at all? Or are you sort of just kind of calling the shots at this point?
I wish, man. I walk by, like, I'll walk out and I'll see creatives working together. I'll be like, ah, that was a fun time. It's a weird thing in this industry where, and I guess other creative industries, but like, you get into it to I loved coming up with ideas. I was just like always writing stuff down. I loved executing stuff, putting on headphones, designing and stuff. And then if you own an agency though, you're increasingly in more meetings because you're trying to touch lots of things and you're juggling different hats. So my partner does new business and I'm more we're both creative directors and we split accounts here, but he deals with new business and outreach and I deal with, operational efficiency. So I'm a weird creative but also finance and operations person. So it's you wear a lot of that. So I wish I did more hands-on creative. Sometimes when we don't have the heart, like if they're the holidays and we have something that is a real quick turn and our teams are loaded, like Justin and I'll be like, well, this will be fun. It'll be like a quick, so we'll go back into that mix. But yeah, it's something that I miss. I miss doing the hands-on creative work, but we're in every creative director meeting. So we're always trying to plus up the work. But the difference is you're like, well, take it or leave it because you don't want to just be like, run with my idea now, that's bad
Yeah.
for morale.
Yep, I get that. How did it feel in that I guess that year or so you were freelancing before you ended
Hmm.
up starting your agency? What was that like, I guess? Was it sort of did it feel like a jump to kind of leave one of those big traditional ad agencies and to sort of be kind of on your own that time, or were you kind of comfortable being freelance, or how did that? Thanks for tuning in, folks. This episode is brought to you by Coming Up Creative, a relationship-first boutique creative recruitment agency. We disrupt the creative ecosystem by running sophisticated, multi-channel campaigns with custom video and voice outreach that actually gets responses. We actively market the agencies and brands we represent to help them stand out to today's industry's top talent, all backed by real human connection and AI-powered targeting. If you're ready for a modern recruitment approach, visit www.comingupllc.com and get started today.
I think I'm a more introverted type. So I really love the kind of the mercenary aspect of freelance because it's very transactional. So the things you hear from freelancers are when you work at a big agency, sometimes there's a culture, sometimes there's favoritism, there's politics, there's, all this other like staff meetings and town hall stuff. And sometimes you're just like, I just want to do the work, man. I don't want to do all this. But so you don't have to deal with that. So I like that aspect. I actually like organizing my time and being very structured. At the same time, you miss the people. You miss like being with people day to day and like learning from people that you wouldn't necessarily do that in the freelance life. And I think like it just kind of sucks to work on something and then love it and then have a vision for how it should be executed. And then it's just like, okay, now take it from here. And then somebody else is executing your work and
Yeah.
you're happy because it's like, hey, the transaction was done. I made money. I made you happy. You get less like angry because it is what it is.
Yeah.
At the same time, you don't have the ownership. So and then the biggest thing is if you can manage the anxiety, is what I've heard just from talking
Yeah.
to a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
the pandemic has really helped freelancing because of working from home, and things are always getting more splintered and faster, and now you can live kind of everywhere, just like you're doing
Mm-hmm.
in Vermont. And I think that's great because it's like feast or famine sometimes, where you have all these jobs in a row and then you have to wait and then it's like you're not doing anything. And if you're somebody who's used to like going 300 miles an hour, which a lot of creatives and advertising are, it's a lot of adjustment to be like, I have nothing to do. What do I do? I need to
Yeah.
be a salesman now. I have to be a salesman and get people to like me so that they'll invite me back. It's like
Yep.
there's a whole other hustle aspect to it. But I think it's cool that it's become easier. Used to be just like the uber talented were freelance because they had demand, and now I think I was at an ad age conference in Toronto last week, and this place Murder Hornet won, and they're just like proudly on the surface, just like we use freelancers for every job,
Yeah.
and it's not a liability as much anymore. Like I do think it's hard to sell most clients on like, wait, so there's no long-term institutional knowledge about my brand. So that's really
Yeah.
hard to sell. But if you can somehow spin it to be faster, more nimble, and make it worth it, like it's amazing that exists now. And
Yeah.
it's not just like 5 holding company shops that you want to work in anymore. There's just so many, which is cool.
Yep, that does seem like a new model where a lot of agencies are kind of doing that,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But then there are also a lot of agencies that are also very protective of their assets and stuff that they're working on, and they don't want to just farm that off to
Yeah,
anybody in a certain
I get
place.
both I get
Yeah,
both sides. AORs, I worked on Geico. That's where I met my partner, and they had such a good relationship with the Martin agency. They had worked together for 25 years, and so there was just a level of trust that is rare when the client just like implicitly trusts the agency to be thinking about their business all the time and to be proactive and not just like bilking them for hours. So it's like it's very special because I think you can take more risks and have more like home runs as opposed
yeah,
to just like singles and doubles. But so I'm a strong proponent of it, but I also know that the drawback of that sometimes is it's slow, it's inefficient, there's like groupthink and so I think both models are have their benefits and
yeah.
yeah.
When you were freelancing, were doing that from Richmond, or were you still living in Los Angeles?
Yeah, no, I was in Richmond and I was lucky because for the longest time the Martin agency was kind of the only shop in town. So if you got laid off or if you chose to leave, I chose to leave because I was there 7 years. And I loved them. I just was ready for something new. And so then I could freelance at, Martin and Arts and Letters and other places.
Yeah,
And it's really nice when you're in a city that you have a bunch of contacts and you can go in and you can pop around. Um, yeah, so I enjoyed it. I liked it. And then also there's always an opportunity cost to everything you choose. So like if you are at a place and you feel like you're not growing anymore, the opportunity cost is, what else you could be doing. So in that time when I was freelancing, I have a brother who like he does packaging design and it's just like a small 1, 2 person shop. And Devil's Backbone, one of his clients got acquired by AB InBev. They forced like an RFP. And then because I was freelance, I was like, oh, I can do this. I'll put a team together. And then I helped him win the design portion, and then I effectively started my own agency to do the advertising portion with Justin. So that being nimble and not being in a having to decide with your family like, oh, do I give up employment? It
yeah.
just makes you more of a seize opportunity when it's there. Of course, the downside is if there are no opportunities. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. Are you from Richmond? Or are you from Virginia?
I'm from, like, suburbs of Philly is where I feel, I guess, where a lot of my personality derives from, like,
Yeah.
but I moved to Northern Virginia when I was, like, 10, and then so went to Virginia undergrad schools, went to Brand Center, and then my family was always in Virginia, so I ended up moving back here from Los Angeles because I realized all of my vacation I was just spending going to visit family and Um, I loved it out on the West Coast, man, but here I could own a house. I could, I have a
Yeah.
lot more.
Yep.
I worked so much in LA that it was like I didn't even see the city. So it was like, do you want to go to a city with less options? But honestly, Richmond's grown a ton because I think post pandemic, people from New York, Austin, LA, Chicago are like, wait, there's really good food there. You can afford a lot of stuff. So Richmond
Yeah.
is a really great place to be right now.
Yeah. I have a very similar story, which kind of brought me to Vermont with sort of kids. Is there a place to buy a home that's a little bit more affordable? And cost of living is still pretty high here, but in
Yeah.
general, it's not too shabby. And yeah, during the pandemic, it was like everybody on my block, all the houses were getting purchased by people from like Los Angeles and New York, or
Yeah.
people started like fleeing. And for some folks, it was tricky, I think, because a lot of companies are sort of told like, oh, now because of the pandemic, you can fully work remote, you can go wherever you want to. And then a lot sort of were like, well, by the way, we actually kind of want you to come back for like three
I know.
days. So a lot of
I
people are
have
like,
friends
damn it.
I had friends from Austin, New York. I'm trying to think of another. I had a few friends, and they moved back to Richmond, bought a house, during. I
Yeah.
was like, it's really bold. And then those maneuvers started happening, and they're like, well, I'm here now, man. I can't. So
Yeah.
some were able to work it out, and some weren't. So
Yep.
yeah,
Definitely created a whole other kind of thing. I guess
it's.
when oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's interesting being an owner, an employer, because like I we're not like a butts and seats place where it's like you need to show up, and if you're not doing work, it's. But like we don't really care about that. But what you do find invaluable is just creating a culture where everyone interacts with each other and gets to know each other and learns from each other and has fun with each other.
Yeah.
It makes all the work, and it makes the client interactions, it just makes it so much more special. And as the industry is just fragmenting into screens all over the place,
Yeah.
it's like as an agency owner, it's like, well, what makes these screens better than these screens? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no thing binding them together. Even the big agencies now, it's like they go in once or twice a week, and it's like it's a crapshoot. Like it's becoming more of a freelance, an aggregated freelance model, and I think that secret is kind of out now. So we like having a culture. We like having clients, like our Duke's client can come over and come like have a drink after work or something, and that's just invaluable because there's other things besides a 30-minute video call about that project that you can talk about and kind of
Yeah.
relate about. So in general, we're strong proponents of it. Of course, rent is expensive, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, but it's I like that collaborative idea and also being able to spend time with the client and,
yeah,
make them feel like, they really know you as a human being and you're not just on a Zoom screen because I think that
yeah,
can be kinda lost these days.
yeah. And one of the downs, the worst thing you can be as an agency is like a vendor, and you want to be a partner. And I think
Yeah.
when you have some free time, you are showing that you think about things in lots of ways, not just for this one task that I need this vendor to take care of, and
Yeah.
I'm just going to bid for that project. It's like it's just more comprehensive when you have a relationship like that. You can touch on other things. So
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. When with you and your partner, when you went on your own, what was sort of like when you're starting to scale, what sort of was like the first thing you kind of needed when you were like, "Oh, we need somebody to to delegate something to." What did that look like?
it was so hard because as an art director, I had a real control problem and wanted to
Mm,
touch everything. And so, you know, I think our first couple hires, we had an account person because essentially we were getting more and more work. And then when we're doing the work, we can't interface with the client as much. And so we had an account person who could do scheduling and things, a lot of client relation stuff and just general strategy. But then it was always, man, I'm going way back now because this was like seven years ago. But then there's kind of a two creatives versus one account person sort of thing. You have to let go of like in the big agencies, it's like creative is always mad at the account, and it's just and how it's not how you run a business on a smaller scale. So we had
yeah.
to learn that. Then we started doing just more creative, and at first we were Justin and I would be the account person. So it's like you have direct access to a creative director account hybrid. And then we, essentially get more and more work, and we started bringing on creatives. And even now, we're like 75% creatives in here because I think we really utilize Slack and resource management tools to like Monday.com to like really allocate bandwidth, which
Mm,
a lot of the bigger agencies are not as good at. They can just kind of throw a bunch of people at a problem. But for us, it's like we need to be it's got to be almost like a production company level. This person is working on this for this much time and this and this and this. So we got a lot better at managing. And so we have more creatives. And then it's like more Justin and my wheelhouse where it's like, oh, we know how to do the writer's room, the creative stuff. But I think we've really had to learn leadership how to make a culture. We kind of crashed and burned with the first few couple of hires. And I'd say in the last 3 or 4 years, we've learned how to recruit, how to hire, how to, you know, pay people, how to do benefits, how to do HR when they're here, how to,
Yeah.
like it's all, I love learning different, I don't know, as a creative, you're usually doing the same task every day. It's like I'm an art director, I come up with ideas and I design them for brands. And it's cool because all the brands change and they're different problems, but it's all the same kind of work. And after about, 15 years doing that job, maybe like 13 years, it's just like, okay, how do I use my brain in other ways? Because I have sort of a business background as well. And it's like, how do I optimize the system so that it's different than what we did before in our other career paths and more built for today. And so it just became fun for me. But at first, it's like anything when you first learning how to be a creative, you suck. And it's like usually when you're learning something new, you're horrible. And it's like being a manager, nobody really goes to be a creative to be a manager. So it's like, how do you
Mhm.
be a manager? Like
Yeah.
other professions are much better at it because they're not like rogue creatives who really want to put their stamp on something and let their voice be known in the world. It's like a lot of people are more farmer types,
Yeah.
and you kind of need in a creative industry to assemble a bunch of hunter types. And it's like, how do you manage them and empower them so they feel like they're not just doing your dirty work or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's
Yeah.
tricky, man. It's super tricky.
Yeah, it's a real thing. I mean, I can relate to it because, I worked for another recruiting agency for like a lot of years and I was just, a salesperson basically and I worked there
Yeah.
and my thing was like, yeah, I'm never going to I never considered doing something on my own because I was just like I'd have to learn QuickBooks, I'd have to learn how to do this, I'd have to like come up with these different software and I've tried new software and I've got to like learn all these things. Like I'm a creative person. There's no way in
Yeah.
hell somebody with my brain is
Yeah.
capable of like leading other people on a mission. Like it seems like, even, I just felt like a child, like that,
Yeah.
and so I can
You
kind
gotta
of,
kind
yeah,
of embrace the beginner's mind.
yeah, but it is kind of cool, and you do kind of learn. You see who is a fit culturally. Who, for me, letting go is the same thing. And I think maybe it's not just creatives, but I think all leaders sometimes can almost be like the bottleneck neck
Yeah.
in their own company because it's so hard to let go. And I can be a little bit I'm not a controlling person, but I understand what you're saying. And for me, accounts can be difficult to let go too because it's like, oh, these
Yeah,
are my
my
people,
relationships.
they're my
And
relationships, I've
also,
built them, and you don't want them to feel like they've been cast aside. Like, oh, why don't you just talk to my other person because they're used to seeing you. And a lot of times they can feel like, wow,
I know.
I used to see Dustin, but now I'm seeing this other person. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
kind
we
of
used to
being,
get the co-founders. Now we have another people,
yeah,
like maybe they're not worth it. Or on the flip side, as an owner, you're like, if I'm empowering my people too much, they have all the institutional knowledge. And if they leave, it's like what is kept. So it's
hmm,
really tricky. But at the same time, in order for something to operate, you have to learn to delegate. You have to learn. I think I don't know at what point I learned this, but there was something where it's like it might have been in a Psych 101 class or something, but it was talking about doctors. And it's not like doctors know more information than when you come out of school, but their expertise comes from knowing where to use their time and like where to quickly be like, I'm going to invest my knowledge here because this is important. This can be subbed out for someone else. I don't need to pay attention to this. So I free up my bandwidth here. So it's more like a structural game than just like I need to know everything.
yeah,
And so I think that's part of it too, because you're right. You're like, this is my client relationship. And I think Justin and I both have had to learn to empower and delegate, but at the same time, you have to check in with them. They can't feel like they're on an island. You have
yeah,
to help them. You have to, like you have to listen. And there's the other tricky thing is everyone's different. So we're like big Myers-Briggs types people, but some people learn with details. And if you don't give them enough details, they feel like you're giving them short shrift and not caring about them. but then other people just want I'm talking about S and N types now, but they just want the overview. They don't need to be led through everything because then so I guess the greater point is everyone's different and you kind of
Yeah.
have to learn. Even creatives, like some creatives need like a little softer touch and some thrive when like the stakes are high and
Yeah.
like don't really care when they're like the typical creative when it's like they got 2 weeks to do a project and they don't touch it till the last week, like the last
Yeah.
couple days. So you have to learn to manage all the types. So it's tough, man. It's a lot tougher than just kind of coming up with a cool idea.
Yeah. No, totally. Do you yeah, I think I read that book, what was it, like the 4-Hour Work Week or something, and it made
Uh,
it looked pretty like when I read that, I was like, "Oh, this seems like pretty easy to do," but it's
yeah,
it's not. Maybe I'd be interested in I know you mentioned Monday .com is a tool. I know there's other ones like Asana and stuff too that a lot of companies
yeah.
use.
We had
What
Asana for a minute.
Yep.
Sometimes it's like you try it, and then when you just realize nobody's using it, you're like, okay, let's get rid of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's certain things that just take time, so you need to invest in a project manager to learn it. So, yeah, we use like Slack and Asana. Slack, everyone kind of lives in Slack, and then you have to manage Slack, so it's not like, where the hell was that thread I was talking on?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And I like, not to date myself because I'm not that old, but like I started working at McKinney in 2005, and like I had a system as a creative, like I read every email and nothing gets past me because every email I will like star it or put it in the folder or whatever. But then
Mhm.
when Slack came, you have email and Slacks and you have text messages now and you're like, I don't know, like if you let go of one ball, it's like shit, this was due.
Yeah.
It's just harder and harder to like
I know.
yeah, so a tolerance for not having everything figured out is something I've really had to learn because as an art director, when you have like 2 or 3 projects, it's like you can be on top of everything. But like now I have 50 things. And it's
Yeah.
like just being comfortable with all of these things in the air and just being like, oh, this is just the job.
Are there other tools in your tech stack that maybe what your designers are using, creatives are using? What else does that
I
look
mean,
like?
you always have Creative Cloud and the AI things we use as tools. So Midjourney and ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT all day long, but like I'm trying to we've dabbled in lots of things, even like new business wise, like Winmo and yeah, there's a lot of I don't know, so many.
Yeah. Is Winmo like a multi-channel sort of
It's like
business development
yeah,
tool?
yeah, and that you have to really realize what you're going to invest in because a lot of these things are tens of thousands of dollars, and
Yeah.
it's like, what's the return? That's like basically gives backgrounds on all the marketing people moving around and gives you alerts and then gives psychological profiles and then tries our before AI, we loved having media spends, competitive media spends for any client under the sun. And then we have sales contacts and there's software like Zoom Info that knows every email on earth
Yeah.
because they have these little bots, really creepy to know about, but it's like, the whole chain of command because it's like
Yeah.
crawling the internet. We don't really deal with that anymore because we learned cold calling. We had a period where
Nice.
we would just like try to do some straight up sales in the very beginning when we felt really qualified for something. And it's like we just live in such a business where when it's so trust based and relationship based that you look like in when you're in advertising and you're an unknown, you look like such a shady character that is
Yeah.
yeah, like just like who are you? Why are you spamming me? How'd you get my email? And
Yeah.
it's just like okay. So
Yeah.
we like to experiment. We like to try. We've done like airport ads, like poking fun at bigger agencies. We've done out of home boards in other Richmonds across the nation to show that we do like national work, but with like the charm of a local person. So like
Yeah.
we love to take like when Justin and I one of the nice things about like being creative is like we'll make an idea and we'll be like, okay, approved, let's do it. So it's
I'm interested in the double click on the cold call thing. So you're saying you actually have done cold calls, or
well,
your
I'd
Justin
say
has?
it's 2025 where at one point we were like, how do we we knew our niche, and we were like, um, this is a vertical that we think we have a ton of experience in. We have a ton of work in from past lives. What if we make like uh, a website, like its own little siloed site, and just approach people and then use like a sales communication with like different touch points, track them in HubSpot, and just try and make networking whatever. And it was just like such a time suck. But this was when we had all the time in the world and we weren't established yet. And it was like, why don't we try some traditional methods? And it
Yeah.
was just like, this isn't the way to go about it. Other places can, but I think the kind of clients you get, we've also done that with SEO stuff where I'm revealing a lot of stuff, but where you're trying to create you give something, if you get an email from them and then you see like, oh, did anyone kind of give our give us, like, anyone reputable give us their email and contact info who was interested. And the majority of them, you're like, man, is Google just making up these contacts? It's
Yeah.
like, it's just such a black box of like, is this even real?
Yeah.
And so we've tried everything from, because we try to market like a business, like something that you don't learn in the advertising world is from the big guys. So we've collectively worked at so many holding company agencies, and it's like all of them, their new business comes from RFPs where, because of their big media companies, they're just invited. And it's one after the other. They rarely ever have to do research, go proactively go after something,
Yep.
and because it all comes to them. So it's like, in the beginning we're like, this is like any other business. How do we have sales? How do we like go after the things we want? How do we at least network in these areas? Because you're always hunting. That's another
Yeah.
dirty secret, is when you don't have RFPs just lined up based on your size and your media capabilities, it's like you better be connecting with people all the time, and getting yourself out there. So
Yeah.
shout out to this podcast, if anything comes of it.
Yeah. So
It's a long game. It's like
no.
awareness advertising. It's a long game. So you just
Yeah.
hope in 10 years people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of those guys.
Yep.
They work
Yep.
on Dukes.
I like that approach. I really do. And I think that, I tell candidates who, and it's with anything. If I'm as a recruitment agency or a candidate or a company is sort of like really narrow down like a dream 100, of like
Yeah.
the 100 places that you would kill it with, and to really
Yeah.
learn everything about those companies. And not to
Yeah.
spam them, but to find a way to break through, and obviously something I always swear to is referrals, because that's always the greatest thing. Like if you make a good impression from somebody who knows
Yep.
somebody else, that the
Yeah. You
warm
have to.
lead is always really, it's always easier than a cold lead. So I'm a big fan of that. But
Yeah.
while we have the last 10 minutes, I want to pivot for a quick second.
Sure.
I've been really appreciate all the strategy insights
Oh
and
yeah.
what you
I'm no.
guys are
I'm
doing.
going in. I'm
I'm
really.
I'm
You're
very
probing
interested in
into
it.
areas that most people don't. So
No, and that's
I
kind of,
appreciate it.
well, I think it's really valuable for one, as somebody, while I was kind of double clicking on while you were freelancing, is because we work with a lot of freelancers, and a lot of times, they are hoping to maybe launch their own company. And kind of, and how does
Yeah.
that work? What does that look like? Obviously it's very common in you know traditional brand agencies where someone like more of an associate, or sometimes more on the copy side, one on the
Yep.
design side, that work with each other, and then they
Yep.
they kind of a lot of times they
Yeah.
bounce to different companies together, and oftentimes we'll recruit two people at once for these different opportunities.
Yeah.
But sometimes they don't see like how they can start their own agency, and what does scaling that look like, and what does business development look like. So I think that value really speaks to people that might be in that position.
All right. Cool.
But the other thing I wanted to double click on, is really just some of like the work you guys are doing. So maybe I'd be curious on like what, maybe campaigns you've been most proud of, kind of getting to the accolades section.
Yeah. I mean, I would just lead with Dukes. Dukes is up here. I didn't even.
Love that.
Yeah. We do so much for them, and that's what last week in Toronto at the Ad Age Small Business, we gave a panel, Justin and I and our client Rebecca, because that brand, we came on in 2021 and it really exemplifies what we do. They, Duke's mayonnaise is hardly known throughout the country. It's really well known in the South because it's been around since 1917. And Hellman's is far and away the biggest. And then the second biggest is Best Foods, which is just Hellman's in like another part of the country. And then there was like Miracle Whip and Kraft. And so when we started, Duke's was just getting some private equity money, which is its own, hurdle to learn how to operate within that world. But we came on and we didn't have much media money, a fraction, probably a 40th of what Hellman's had at the time, and we just took how do we make all these activations? So like, let's do like a restaurant event with tomatoes and mayo because that's like a Southern tradition. So we called that Hot Tomato Summer. A lot of people get Duke's tattoos. Let's give out free tattoos. Like, a lot of chefs love Duke. So let's do a whole video series documenting like these iconic restaurants and then shoot them in the back of the house and have the chefs curse and just be themselves because there's some real love there. So it was just like a very grassroots strategy as opposed to Hellman's top-down strategy, and just built a lot of brand love. And then some of the accolades are Duke's is the fastest growing since we've started working with them. They've had double-digit growth in units and sales. And, that's not all us. That's like funding, obviously, as well. But like being beloved does not help. They passed Kraft, so they're now third behind Hellman's and Best Foods, which was so far off when we started. They just got purchased again because Duke's is like the shiny object within the portfolio sour that contains them. And then they're also getting these YouGov, like most persuadable brands and most searched after brands. So things like that are really kind of, the proof is in the pudding. So a lot of times in advertising, you can fake it by like capturing impressions and headlines. And it's like, as owners, you can't really do that anymore. It has to, there used to be a ton of awards I would see one at Cannes, and then the agency is dumped the next year, and you're like, well, that clearly, helped them, but didn't help the business. So you have to do both. And so we're really proud. We view ourselves as kind of underdogs as well. So having a challenger brand mentality, they were a feisty underdog brand archetype or challenger brand archetype that we chose for them, and just kind of poking at Hellman's. And they went into football, and now Hellman's basically copies everything Duke's does, and we just have such a fraction of the money. But it's just because we're smarter, we're quicker, we're more dedicated, we have less layers. I can't imagine running through the Hellman's layers and then the Unilever, and like it seems like a nightmare. And it's just like, it's all the stuff as a creative at the big agencies you hated when you would work 6 months, and then the CEO or the CMO would see it and be like, this isn't the brief, start over. And it's just like, why didn't we just talk to him 6 months ago? So we love Duke's. We love Crunch because that was a brand that is a national brand, but their positioning was no judgments, and Planet Fitness basically stole their IP and did Judgment Free Zone after. Planet Fitness is another huge behemoth in the category. Same color scheme, sort of same price point, and we've taken Crunch from just like getting smarter at strategy, choosing a new positioning, getting franchise buy-in, which is really tough, and just doing good emotional work. We've taken them from 7th in brand awareness to 2 in like 2 years with Crunch. Wow. So it's always, and this isn't just us, it's like partnership with them and a lot of smart leadership on their point, because clients really determine at the end of the day, like what gets made. As good as you are at selling, like you don't want to fool them into buying something and they don't love it and don't believe in it. So I think we're most proud of those things, but also just FC's growth. Like we pride ourselves as a brand, and taking a niche and getting known for it and then having proven success is, for us, we love, because a lot of the big agencies we come from are generalists and they don't have a lane. It's just anything we get, we're going to do, whether it's fashion or sports or cars or apparel or whatever. We'll do whatever. And it's like, I think we really look for a kind of brand that has potential to be beloved, that we can move emotionally, that is within a set media range, and that has like a challenger mentality that wants to level up. I guess Bubba Burger I'm proud of too, and
Yeah, I've
I
seen
like
that.
them because they're a number one in frozen food, but we don't view that as a number one because it's like, man, frozen burgers are just one piece of like a whole convenience frozen food section. So we love working with it. So, and anyway, I just like having a niche and then having brands start to self-select and be like, oh, they're perfect for us, as opposed to being like, we'll do whatever comes our way.
Yeah, love that. Maybe just to close out, you can tell me a little bit about what you like to do for fun outside of
Ooh,
working. What do you like to, your
that's
hobbies
fun.
or interests?
So I'm a runner, but I was I do a lot of stuff outside. We're a very pro work-life balance, mental health aware sort of place. It's how we can attract big talent and then also keep a happy workforce. And so I'm a runner, but I tore my meniscus playing soccer in a men's league. So that sucks, but I love to rock climb as well. So I would say running and rock climbing are my big ones. And the reason I like them both is because we're so used to in this industry being in our heads, and a lot of times you're just making like PDFs that never see the light of day. Although we have a really high hit rate with making work here, it's just like being present in the moment and not thinking ahead and not just being up in your head off in Never Land, whatever. It's nice to be in the real world, so I enjoy those things.
Yeah, no, that's
And
great,
being
man.
with my kids. I have two awesome kids, and I try and be a really good dad for them. So that's that's the that's the those things kind of balance out when you're trying to get all stressed out about something that's really just communications at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
um yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate your time, Dustin. You're very easy to talk to,
Oh, thank you.
and really enjoyed hearing all your insights and being on here and speaking with us today.
You too. Hopefully people enjoy some of the nitty gritty stuff that I never really get into. So
Yeah, man. Well,
thank you.
I think they will appreciate the time today.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right,
Justin.
man.
All right. Bye.